So guys, Aquascape update here. It's coming in really great. Plants are still really healthy, thriving. Bubbler's going in the back there with the CO2. And quick update on my CO2 right now, my situation. So guys, we all know about these cartridges. And these are really convenient. They come in the right sizes, 20, 45, and 90 grams. Overall, really user-friendly and great for beginners. But the one problem with these is that they're only used once, and they have to be disposed of every single time, which is not very environmentally friendly. Also, it costs quite a lot to run your aquarium on these. I know that I run my 17-gallon on these right here, and one of these will only last 3 weeks. So buying these every 3 weeks is quite costly. This 3-pack here in my local aquarium store cost me $50, and I was wondering, how can I find a good solution that would offer me reliable CO2 for the long term? And I started moving towards the idea of buying a larger CO2 tank. Now you can go for 5 pound, 10 pound, or 20 pound. These tanks can be used and refilled, so great for the environment. And also, they'll save you so much money in the long run and be really reliable sources of CO2 that you won't have to constantly change. So here's a 20 pound that I picked up. So I'm going to tell you guys the story behind getting this tank here today. So it all started when I went up to my local aquarium store, and the staff were very helpful, and they mentioned that a good way of doing CO2 for your planted tank is to get away from all of those refillable canisters like I mentioned, and go for a bigger tank, like a 20 pound tank. And they mentioned a local growery or hydroponic store near where I live, and I'm sure you guys have them where you are, that offers an exchange program on 20 pound tanks, just like this one here. So I went up to the hydroponic store and I asked them about their exchange program. They mentioned that I could either buy a tank from them for $300, or I could look online, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, and purchase my own tank for a lot cheaper, and then bring it in, and they'd give me a new filled tank. So I went online and I looked around, and I managed to pick up a tank for $50. And the reason why it's so cheap for me was the local growery and their exchange program. They accepted tanks that were expired for their hydro test. So a lot of you guys, when you go online to try to buy these tanks, look for the dates, ask the guy about, or the person selling it, for the hydro test date. And they're all stamped on here. You can see this is quite an old tank. It's been hydro tested many, many times. And hydro testing basically means that they're testing for its pressure and making sure it's all good. And it has to be hydro tested every 5 years. So the hydroponic store that I went up to, their exchange program, they didn't need a hydro tested tank, so I could find one for $50. So it was past its hydro testing expiration date. So I brought that tank in to them, and they took it away, and they gave me this filled tank here. And that is basically their exchange program. They'll take the old tank you find off of you, and they'll give you a filled tank. And you have to maybe pay a fee of maybe $30 or $40 to get it filled. And you got CO2 for like 1 to 2 years. In my case, probably 3 years running the tanks, running a 17-gallon off of this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you guys check with your stores about the hydro test data. They accept a tank that's expired already for the hydro test every 5 years. If they do, you're probably going to get it for a better deal. If not, probably not less of a great deal, but it's going to be better than purchasing a tank from them, which is probably going to cost you a new tank, which is probably going to cost quite a lot of money. So very pro tip there. Try to look online for an older tank to get into the exchange program at your local hydroponic store. You can also check your local brewery, and they might also do a 20 pound or even 50 pound tank exchange program. So there you guys go. Now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about some of the things you need to run the setup. Get into some of the CO2 regulators, the gauges you need, and some other stuff like that. So hope you guys like this video so far. If you're enjoying this video at all, or you're learning something new about CO2, you should stay tuned for part 2. I'll see you guys in part 2.